Madam President, members of the Chamber, I am the common representative of 327 victims who have been admitted as participants at this confirmation of charges hearings and the related proceedings. I would like to say something by way of introduction of the people I represent. Given that there are 327 individual people, it is unfortunately not possible in the limited time available to introduce each of them individually. But there are all 327 of them individual people. People with their own individual lives, families, hopes, and aspirations, which all have been turned upside down by the brutal events in the post-election violence of 2007 and 2008. They are all from the Rift Valley province of Kenya. They are mostly members of the Kikuyu tribe, but they also include individuals from the Luhya, Kamba, and Kisii communities. They range from the age of 20 to 80. 146 of them are female, and 181 of them are male. Virtually every one of them had their homes or property destroyed, burned, looted, and destroyed in these events. Virtually every one of them had to flee their homes at the time of the events. Many subsequently returned and have faced the heartbreaking prospect of seeking to rebuild all that was lost. Others have not been able to return to this day, both because their properties have been occupied by others and they have been unable to reclaim them, or because a continuing climate of menace makes them afraid to return. Another story relates to a lady who has been completely changed, both emotionally and physically, by the events. And she has a child's grave which serves as a constant reminder of what happened to her in the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence. On 1st January 2008, she told me that she remembers vividly that as the violence grew worse, she and her child sought refuge at the one place that is considered by most people as sacrosanct and consequently most secure: the church. As she sat inside the church with her child, she was amongst about 100 others, women, children, elderly, disabled. They all sat in that church thinking that they were safe. What happened? They burned the church. A crowd of righteous youths, viciously shouting slogans and brandishing crude weapons, surrounded the church. She carries on to describe: the youths closed the doors and sealed the windows to ensure that no one escapes. They then set the church ablaze, and in minutes the whole of the Kiamba church was on fire. The lady in a bid to save her child threw the child out of the window while she burned in the fire. She defied death, but sustained burns to 80% of her body. And now she is scarred for life. Her child died despite all her efforts to save him. Now, for these victims and others who have not been able to recount, these are not merely tragic events in history or something to read about in the newspapers. but real experiences in their own lives. Each victim personally felt the brutality and the heartlessness of the group attacks, the heartbreak of the deprivation of property obtained from years of thankless toil, the indignity of being rendered incapable to fend for one's family, the horror of losing family members, and being left alone without support, or the terror of fearing for one's life continuously. Beyond the initial impact of the violence, victims then had to endure the consequences of these callous crimes with little or no assistance from the government. The majority of the displaced victims continue to live in deplorable conditions, without adequate shelter, livelihoods, and means of securing food, medical care, and education for their families. These proceedings directly affect the personal interests of those I represent, both at the very individual level and also at the family and community level. It affects the future of their country and their succeeding generations who will live in it. This is a very serious matter. The victims I represent are very mature. They understand that justice being done means a fair trial before an independent and impartial tribunal in accordance with the law. They all knew the concept of a person is innocent until proven guilty. What is important to them, however, now is that the criminal justice process has now engaged seriously, professionally, and rigorously with what has occurred.